I know that with the reorganization, it's a ratio. I mean, whatever the money that we need to spend to process these fees come out of the fees, and so we're not really going in the hole. So
No.
Can you just talk to me a little bit about that and explain? Because on the surface, it looks like we're 40% negative.
Right. It does, based off of what we do last year at this time, and that just could be honestly timing on projects, on when developers come and take out the permits. They can be taking out the permits now and not starting until actually a couple months later. But what will offset this is our expenditure, and if you look at the building department portion, because of the salaries and benefits, we've decreased. We're 65% below currently than when we were last year in our expenditures.
That's good news.
Absolutely, it's because you got a contract.
Yeah.
That's because we use contract.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And
now
so-
we're still contract.
Can I ask one
Go
other
ahead.
question? Is it says that the police department expenditures are slightly higher due to personnel staffing expenditures. So you didn't really talk to any numbers or percentages on that?
No, on this one,
Slightly higher is.
I need to really dive into it and research it more.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at it, it is, if you just taking a snapshot, it is the salaries in that department.
Is it like additional hires that we weren't anticipating, or
I think it's just
overtime?
the staffing overtime.
Staffing overtime.
Not that we've had so many positions open or that we hired so many more.
Mhm.
It's just at the time of between whether people were off or we were short staffed, whether positions opened up, and until we filled those positions, we had to incur overtime to maintain our level of police services. So that's where I'm gonna dig into research to have more of a comparative analysis, see year over year what was it, what was the trend. But more than anything, it's because we don't have we didn't have enough staffed at the time, and right now I believe our positions are pretty much full. I have to verify them to see as far as PD.
I think we're authorized, and we're 2 or 3 short of our authorized hiring now.
So on the building department, previously, we were having a surplus in the building department, and we had to change the building department permits to reduce that surplus because you're not really allowed to make a surplus on the building department. Where do we stand now on that? We weren't allowed, we thought that we could, if we reduced it to less than $1 million, we'd be okay legally because we could discuss using that for new facilities and things. But where are we now?
Well, currently on that, we're finishing up our cost plan analysis for master fee study, and that should be done by the beginning of the year, and that will kind of give us an understanding of what our fees, what we're charging, and what we're incurring as a cost. And that's what we've been spending the last month on working on getting that finalized.
When we start making a surplus again, we're probably going to have to reduce the building permits costs.
Yeah.
That's something we really need to get a handle on pretty soon.
Okay. No, duly noted, and that's something that we've been working on in the last month, meeting with the different departments. I met with Capital Accounting Partners. They were here last week for 3 days. We met over that to get the master fee schedule, making sure that we understand the cost, make sure there was no cost that we're missing, so we can come up with and create that master fee schedule for building permits, for encroachment permits, public works, to update that whole schedule.
And one of the things that we were not doing previously was allocating enough costs for overhead. For instance, we weren't allocating any costs for percentage of George's time, percentage of your time, so that it looked like we didn't should have. So I think we need to make sure we correct that.
Yes.
But I think from the building permit fees, just a little FYI, the change was they went from, when people were building basements, let's say, right? Instead of charging on a per square foot basis of the basement, they were charging for hauling away of dirt.
Yeah,
All what?
those off-haul
Hauling away of the
fees,
Yeah.
right.
right? So the change actually increased the fees dramatically because people were building 4,000 square foot basements and the swimming pool. So what they were doing, that little swimming pool charge became 10 times more because of the dirt removal fees.
Yeah.
So it's just a change, not necessarily
Of the staffing, but
And
the
of the staffing,
valuation of
Well,
the
that,
process.
that fee got,
Change in the building.
got repealed.
That was a road impact fee.
No, that was an off-haul fee.
Yeah,
The off-haul fee.
and there was a road
And
impact.
then there was a road, so, yeah, so that was refunded appropriately, and we're not charging those off-haul fees anymore. So the building department fees are, pretty stable right now, and what I think Councilmember Doggy was trying to say is that we may have to we don't want to make too much money in the building department because we're supposed to kind of break even
Yeah.
services and, provided services, money received. Because otherwise we reduce the
Right, we
the
can't
fees.
take that money
Right.
for any other purpose, is what I'm
I have a question, Robert, in your spreadsheet here on page 1 of the revenues, is there a subtotal for the different categories, like revenue for building department? It's just all line item
Yes,
by line item.
and I'll update that for you. I
Yeah,
apologize. That way, so it reflects on the budget. The budget itself was by categories, property tax, it was 7
Yeah.
million. I'll update that, so
Yeah,
you'll see the categories, so.
The expenses were kind of categorized out pretty well.
Right, by
but the revenue
department,
wasn't.
but I'll do
Yeah.
that, I'll do the same for the revenues.
The
Alright.
Break
thing
them
here
out.
is that the police department, which gets, I think it's about 56% of our budget, they are understaffed at the moment, and yet they seem to be spending more than their budget.
I
which
think it's
is-
overtime.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Majority of it-
We gotta look at that very carefully, because I think we're 3 sworn officers down, from what I
Right.
remember. And yet we're spending more money, so of course, there's always a situation where, should we be bringing in another officer rather than spending all that money in overtime? And the second item is, which maybe hasn't really come up at this meeting, but once upon a time, we talked about a 2-tier system for new hiring. Somehow that seems to have been forgotten. And
Talk about what?
a 2-tier system for new hiring.
Oh, you mean your benefits?
A 2-tier system, so that people coming in, new people coming in would not necessarily get the same pension and benefits as people that are there today. And we've talked about this for a long time, and I thought at one point we were gonna implement it, especially in the police department, but we don't seem to have.
So they agreed to do that too.
Well, I
We agreed to
think
do
we
that.
can
No, they
just
agreed.
get-
Well, I don't know whether to do that.
It was on their website, I think.
Yeah, so George, this is something you need to look into.
George, I think it's on their website that they agreed to go to a 2-tier system. I never looked it up, but they kept telling me that that was the case.
The current MOU for the police department expires in September of 2013. As part of the negotiations process, that's something the council has issued as a priority toward that negotiation. The local miscellaneous employees and the police department are going to be subject to AB 340, which will create a second-tier system on the new mandated state retirement
Starting
pension.
Yeah, the 5 years.
Starting January 1st.
No, starting January 1st, but it doesn't begin until the new MOU, until the MOU expires.
Which is September 13th. I don't think we can,
Discuss that.
initiate new hiring policies or salary policies with their contract in place.
We can if we want to, but
Not with an existing MOU. Their MOU expires in September. It's subject to meet and confer,
Yeah.
but even for new officers.
even for new
Right,
officers.
Yeah, I mean, so that's,
Okay, well, I guess we get into the negotiating sessions
Correct.
sometime later this year.
Of the police overtime, we talked about this, that you do get credit back when the federal government, police overtime is related to political events.
They've been filing for that, yes. They haven't received any, but
So they haven't received it, so it is still in our budget as an expense.
correct.
Is there any expectation of when the refund would come to us?
It there's no guarantee that it's coming. They file for it, but they don't.
Other cities, other counties are able to get that.
Do we know how much that we filed for? Do we have that?
I don't know, I
That's
can
our
go.
council should be doing that for us.
Yeah.
Because we are not responsible for overtime hours of police for political candidates who are here all the time.
And it's gotta
And we
be,
have
it's gotta be
to provide.
substantial.
You know, you're missing me, what, to start over.
You know, all those,
Our-
things you have at your house, Greg, all those political rallies, and we have to hire more police. No, I'm just joking.
No, if
A lot of people
Obama.
They demonstrated against me.
We're gonna charge you.
They demonstrated against me.
I think anything after 5 PM is considered overtime. We are obligated to pay overtime to our police. Our police have to be 100% staffed, and I think we bring in other police from other areas as well, right? If it's a
If
presidential
necessary.
candidate, or if it's a president himself, or that's the federal government's issue.
Well,
And that's
we-
not
we-
us.
Yeah,
So we should have the right, and we do have the right, to request that money back
yeah.
From the
We
feds.
do, and
from the Fed for overtime hours above and beyond for our staff.
Newport Beach sent a bill to the federal government.
You have the right to do that, and
Well,
I've seen it collected.
Newport Beach sent a bill to the federal government for all the time they had to be there protecting Obama and all the other candidates. Now, about 3 months ago, I talked to Ed Flynn saying, we ought to send a bill into the federal government as well. And he said, well, I'd like to see, first of all, what happened to the Newport Beach
Well, it's
invoice.
beyond that. It's also your police training. So when you're police training or being, they have to have a certain level of training for terrorism acts or whatever. That extra training also is a,
Reimbursable expense.
Yeah,
because it's above and beyond our needs.
well,
So
We are required to provide a reasonable care standard.
I
So-
completely agree.
Where are you getting all this knowledge?
The trouble is, you've gotta get
No, but
paid.
I've seen it in other, I know it's available.
You've
So
gotta
we should
get
at least
paid.
look at
You know,
it.
sending
That's
in a
what
bill
legal
is
counsel
fine, but you
should
gotta
do.
get
And
paid.
have we had presidential candidates?
We did, we had,
Oh,
we
yeah.
had Obama here at least
We had
3
Obama in
times.
here twice.
Oh.
And we had
Yeah.
Romney here, I think,
They
twice.
go out in the
Hasn't been invited.
streets, you have cops on every
Weren't you
corner.
invited?
They make sure that they get to and from, and they're here late at night because they go for their dinners and stuff.
Well, that Boehner was up at, was here too.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know what percentage of the overtime is, maybe it's not huge,
Well,
but it is certainly something that I think we do.
but there are some things we did. In other words, for some of these visits, we were requested to provide a certain number of police support. And Ed Flynn said, no, we don't have the money to do it, so I'm not gonna do it. So,
Oh, you just said no, huh?
Just
You
said
didn't
no.
say, pay
we
the
just
cash
said we're not
first?
gonna do it, and because we don't have enough people. And I guess nobody said you had to, so I think in the next area looking at Diana, I agree with you. We should be billing the federal government.
Absolutely.
But not if we didn't do anything.
Well, we did
of course
some.
not.
Well, if they were on staff, and they would be, after hours.
Well, but he said they
charge
turned them down.
overtime.
Well,
Well, not every
Or-
no,
time.
we
Not
didn't turn
existing
down
staff,
everything.
existing staff.
We still had to provide street support. I mean, there were some things, we didn't provide what would be called additional protection support, but we still had to have our cars out there, stopping the traffic, you know, doing all the other things. So I think we should, I have to talk to Ed
Well, maybe we
again.
can
see
get an
if he said
update
that.
from the city manager about that. okay?
I have it down, I'll get with Ed.
Okay, so keep going, we interrupted you, Ron.
No, it's okay, it's
Keep going.
good discussion, good dialogue.
Well, you know, I'm paying catch-up all here. I don't understand the schedule. Explain to me the expense schedule.
Okay, okay, the first part of, page 1, all the way down to, page 2 is our revenues. So if you go to page 2, our total revenue, if you look, it says adjusted actual July 12th to October 12th column,
On what page?
2,
Page 2, it's
204,
yeah, 204.
Says- kind of bold.
Yes. So if you look at the middle, you see there's 1,448,053.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, that's the revenue that we've received from July through October. Up to October, that's the revenue that the general fund
Pretty
has.
puny.
Yes,
It's pretty puny.
yes. And that's reflective, if you look over to 3 columns to the right, you'll see 14.1%. That's the percentage of our annual budget of our revenues. That's this one
For the
point
first
4
quarter.
million is only 14.1%.
Should be 25%.
Yeah.
And our adopted budget
Yeah,
is,
he's explained it.
it's on the left-hand column, your adopted budget is 10.275 million in revenues.
Yeah.
So 14.1% is where we're at right now.
But that's because of the way they pay the property.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's a cash flow issue.
Yes, and it gets caught up, it's just,
Well, let's go through the expenses.
okay. The expenditures,
Page 3 and 4 at the bottom.
okay,
Well,
What about-
he's
what about
got
the columns?
them
I don't
separated out
Okay.
in
Yeah,
subtotals.
I'm saying, that on page 3.
Yeah, and then the net.
okay, if you go to page 3 of 4,
Yeah,
the total expenditures to date, on the middle column that says adjusted actual July 12th to October 12th, that, total expenditures to date is 3.3 million.
now what are the adjustments?
The adjustments is basically accruals that we add in there, of what's good, has to be up to that point. Whether if it's a bill that maybe we're in the process of paying, that it's not in there when we run this report, that's the accrual portion.
And where are the adjustment, what is the adjustment column?
Which, the adjustment column, where do you?
Is there a column for adjustment?
The
You say
accruals
adjustment.
in there.
Adjusted actual, that's what that column is, adjusted actual July 12th to October 12th. That's taking the actual July 12th
Plus the accruals.
plus the accrual. So that is C plus D. It's taking the actual July 12th to October 12th plus the accrual equals that middle column, adjusted actual July 12th to October 12th. So we want to try to capture
And then what is the variance from the budget? That goes all the way back to what column?
the variance of the 4/12 of budget means that's where we're at, basically. That's taking the adjusted actual July 12th column minus, if you look at column, go to all the way to the left, and go 3 in, where it says 4/12 of budget.
Yeah.
Okay, that 414,239, I'm sorry, go to 3,625,269, minus out the 3,379,
Yeah.
gives you that variance. So, of 245,412.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, column B, 412 of budget should be where we should be if
Keep
everything
going
was
across,
equal.
what's the 7,000,004?
Okay, the 7,000,004 is the, year-to-date variance. That's taking our column A, which is our budget, minus our actual.
Yeah.
It's telling us
Which
that,
column?
it's column A minus E.
That says we're 7 million left to spend.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And if you
At a
look
run rate
at the
of
top of each
3.3
column, we
million per
have,
quarter,
we have like
we're not gonna
A,
make
B,
it.
C, D, E, and it kind of tells you, like if we're doing a variance, it tells you B, column B minus column E.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All right, now, the 1,000,007, what is that?
1.73, 731,
Are we over or under budget?
Oh,
we're
we're
over.
over.
And why is that?
Well, that's a good question.
Okay, we're taking that's the revenues over the expenditures column, that's what we're using
Way
here.
Well, that's because of the property taxes.
Right.
Yeah, but just our expenses, if we just look at our expenses
We're
straight,
way
Well, our
We're
expenses is
over our-
245.
annual run rate. So why are our expenses in this first quarter more than 50% higher than our budgeted amount, right?
No, I got 245, is the total expenditures are 3,000,006. And then with the accruals, will they deduct the accruals deducted?
No, that 3.625
Yeah.
is basically, that's taking 4/12 of our budget, the first 4 months.
All right,
Um,
and then the actual was 3,000,001.
yes, and then you add the accrual of 273, will get us to
We're lower.
3.379, meaning that our expenses, based on where we would be 4/12 into the budget, are below.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. We're 245,000 below and where we should be budget-wise in expenditures.
But
All right, let's go up to.
Robert, wait a minute, so, but why is our adopted budget 10,875,000. If you divide 4 into that, it's like, it's
Because
three
it's 4
quarters?
months. This is 4 months.
4 months is 1/3.
July 12th.
Oh, it's only, okay, we're doing it on a,
So if you multiply that by 3,
why are we
which is,
doing it
This is
in
supposed to be 33.3%.
comes out to be roughly.
We're not doing it on a quarterly basis.
No. It's 4
Oh,
months.
that's my problem.
Yeah. So if you multiply that number by 3, then you get roughly
Okay.
about the annual number.
Okay, I was doing it.
All right, let's go up to the
Were
building
you-
department.
Were you,
Okay.
The
okay.
58,000 for professional services,
Yes,
is that over or under?
That's basically, based on our budget, we're at 38.2% of our budget.
Is that?
So that's over.
Is that the audit?
The salaries and benefits, that's,
No, not the salaries and benefits,
Professional services, is that the audit?
oh, okay. The
So
professional
why are we
services, no, that's-
58,000 above on the professional services? Is that because our revenues are up or activity, what is that?
No,
I mean, that's the payments we make to the outside group and
yes, sir.
The non-department one, right?
the professional services.
That's because there was a grade, on that, professional services, there was a grading, requirement, that was the, drainage, grading and drainage creek.
Was that the Fletcher Ridge?
Yes,
And there was an overrun. There
Right.
was the
that's what
change
came to,
order.
right,
the
that's what came to the
huge
council,
amount.
it was about 47,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
got it,
so that's
okay.
why it's, you'll see it where
You
it is
should
right now.
discuss that in your comments, shouldn't you?
Oh, it's in the report, it's on the, under where it says, where it starts talking
Building
about building
department.
department salaries.
Says the grading and drainage criteria creek update for stormwater
Really, probably
requirements,
shows the budget down to 60.
47,000.
So that's what
Professional services, this is doing 47,000.
This was something we.
Yes, the council, it went before council,
That's
yeah.
related to doing all your road reworking, correct?
It's
What's that contract building? Explain to me that.
Oh, that's the
Contract,
Interwest.
That has to do, that's Interwest, that's our Interwest contract.
What line item is that?
That's under the building, it's contract building and life safety services. The budget is showing 760,300,
Right.
and the actual is 260,171.
Well, the prorated is 253, so it's virtually on target.
We're over about 6,000.
I thought that was based on percentages rather than a prorated amount. Percentages of fees?
Yeah, we get 58%.
Yes.
We get,
We get
and
58%.
you pay them 42?
They get 42.
They
Oh.
collect $100, we get $58, they get 42.
All right, but based on the revenues, the permits,
Yes.
Yes.
so if the permits, what are they? They went way up, didn't they?
Well, not. But it doesn't matter because
Doesn't matter.
it's a ratio.
matter.
It's, you know, that's why we're
They
outsourcing.
pay all the expenses and all the salaries and everything else with 42%
Yeah.
of everything they receive in the building.
Well, I know, but what do we, but that's based on, the revenues are the key, and where are the revenues? What on that schedule? Page 1.
There, okay, the revenues for building
Right.
are, we have the building permits,
That's what I
it's
was.
274,534.
Where's that, what line item?
If you go look under a building permit on page 1,
Yeah.
it's, almost,
It's about 2/3 of the way
yeah,
down.
2/3 down.
Right.
It's at 274,000.
$903,900 is the big number on the
And
left.
that's the 58%, that's our revenue.
Right,
Now, is this a 58%?
yes.
Yes, that's what comes into us.
So that's 274 versus their 193?
No, they're
260.
260, yeah.
Where's that?
That's on page 3. under building.
What do I have?
It's the contract building and life safety.
260
Yes, sir.
versus 274.
But you have to understand, also, and I'll put this on the next one, is it's not only building permits, you got grading and drain permits, you got encroachment permits,
All based off the same percentage
Yeah.
distribution.
that's part of that. Building permits is just one component.
Well, why would our building fees ever change if it's a fixed percentage?
Well, our building fees may have to change, because if the revenue that we're receiving on the building fees, which is 58%, and the expenses that we're charging the building department are too much different, in other words, we're making a profit, that's illegal.
And the fees themselves that we charge can also include overhead, because that's just the split that we're talking about here.
And
So we
so,
can include the overhead to maintain the building, Robert's time doing
Well,
work
that's
here.
for check testing on your profits.
and we have,
Right, but I'm trying to get down to the significance of the percentage reimbursement rather than actual.
Well, that was a
Well, you don't wanna
negotiation,
talk about that right
negotiation.
now,
Yeah.
because that's a contract that's already in
place,
place,
right.
and we're not,
Well, no, but I'm trying to.
and actually, it's a very good deal.
it is.
It's a very
It is.
good
It's
deal.
turned out to be a very good deal, I think.
What do you, I guess,
Okay, but Robert, so next time,
Yes, ma'am.
just for the revenue, I think it would really be helpful if we did the subcategories,
Yeah,
so that we
Will do.
can, you know,
and anything you can do with pie charts and pictures, you know, for me at my age,
I would,
they're an awful lot better than all those numbers I have to look at.
I would,
we can't do pie charts on this level of detail,
yeah.
I don't think.
I'll continue to
Well, you
improve
can
it.
if you break it into departments.
Yeah, I'll continue to improve it. It's my first actual finance committee on my own, so
No, that's
I'll
good,
get
Robert.
that.
I'm really pleased that you're delving into things, and certainly that presentation that that lady made today
yeah,
was very enlightening. I wish
no,
it was quite that way, but it wasn't.
okay. Are we
I'll
done?
send that to you.
Oh,
I
just
did email
accepting
it.
this.
I'll verify with her.
Right,
For me.
we're done.
Okay.
Okay, are
Can I ask
we,
one quick question on the audit fees? Are audit fees because they are requested by the state, correct? Or by the county? They're requested by the state, they must be done, correct?
Audits,
Audit.
it depends on the issue. Our actuarial evaluation audits have to be done every 2 years.
Okay.
Our,
Our financial audit.
And this is a financial burden to the town itself.
yeah,
It is not a reimbursable item to the state.
Well,
if it's a
a state
mandated cost.
mandate,
Right.
It should be reimbursable.
Yes.
Yeah, but we submit our SB 90 claims for that, but the state suspends payment of those claims, but still has the requirement that you provide.
yeah. And we're working on those, and we have a firm that does our state mandated claims. And so submitting them is one thing, getting paid is the other thing. And the state, as we submit them, the state will keep a record, and when they're ready or when they have the money to pay them, they'll reimburse us back. But we do actually go and we bill them for whatever state mandated cost we're required to do. We gather all our expenses of what we've done for that, and then we submit that claim. They have it, they record it, and
Everything from audits to police requirements to agenda
I
posting.
realize
packets,
it's
yeah.
a toxic asset, you know?
yes.
It's an asset that you can never get. But it is something that we should show that we're tracking, that we're at least making the effort. Whatever is not our expense should not be our expense, and it should be on some kind of book of record to
We have
show
that.
that to the public, that
You're
we are
taking-
making an effort.
Talk about financial statement audits?
Audits, agenda posting, training for police
State
requirement
required.
Well, no,
departments.
but we would want an audit whether they required it or not.
Sure, but there are certain state mandated requirements that we're eligible for reimbursement for.
She's talking about the same audit, that's all
The state mandated requirements,
is.
we should be reimbursed for, because
So
it's
we
not
should-
our request.
So we should
It's
book it
their
as an
request.
account receivable.
That's
Oh,
good.
gosh, no.
You don't, because
Never put it on
you'll be
a-
sitting on it for 4 years.
But it should be something tracked,
Okay.
okay, that we're aware that it's not our expense.
Yeah.
Because you have to tell the public
Mhm.
why you have an expense,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And if we can say, look, it's the state, it's the Fed, it's not us,
Mhm.
We
so you can make your complaint to your local government,
Yeah,
right? And that, I think, is,
I think that's good, I
Or
think
maybe-
that's a
I think
good
that's
suggestion. I don't think we've ever done
We've
that.
never done it. But
And I
on
think-
the other hand, I don't know that our auditors are state mandated on this.
considering we're being we're audited, we're paying for professional auditors, they should create this, they're recording it, and they can tell you what's going
And it's a good
on.
subject
And
to
create a
bring up.
statement. And then your legal counsel needs to.
Could we
That's
write,
easy.
could we take a recommendation from this committee to have the city manager write a letter to our auditors requesting that action be taken?
It's just a line item breakdown,
Yeah.
that they should actually be able to provide to us with that.
What would probably be easier is to have our SB 90 folks
Right.
who handle our state mandated costs provide a list of eligible
Yeah, I don't think
mandated
so.
costs.
I
And
wouldn't
then
be
maybe
surprised.
things we can submit reimbursement for, and then things that we are submitting reimbursement for currently.
Okay.
And we can compare those two, and if we're missing anything, then we
And then
can.
how can we reflect those on our financial statements?
Well, we can provide this committee with an annual SB 90 report.
Now that subject being raised, by the way, if you remember at the audit committee, I think one of the recommendations was, we're gonna review the selection of our auditors.
Yes, and that'll be brought up at our next one. It's part of, I have a future agenda, and that's what we can discuss as far as, you know, for the setting up the next meeting, other agendas. I have that on there. The other one is the liability.
But there have been people that have been unhappy with our personal auditors, let's put it that way.
Well, I'm unhappy with their communication abilities.
Right, so that, we can't really discuss that right now.
Okay.
But, you know, I think that's something we really need to think about.
There's, actually, I had made a recommendation for a previous auditor who's audited San Mateo, Santa Clara, Hillsborough, so on and so forth. It's a whole entire agency that provides that. And so he's on the list as a recommendation. So when that future date comes up, that is really somebody you need to interview.
All right.
I'm going to make a proposal and see if that's
I
good.
mean, our auditors in the past have missed lots of things. And,
Again, we want to have the onus of saying we made the effort. We put it out to at least 3 to 4 different companies or agencies or participants and be sure that we're getting the right number and the right detail.
I agree. Is there any other business?
Well, I'm still, if somebody asked me tomorrow, how are we doing for the 4 months, what would I tell them?
Tell them,
We're under expenses by 245.
tell them we're at 31.1% in relation to budget, as far as
Yeah.
where we are
Expenses.
in expenses, which
It
is
could be 33%.
Now, what is it in relation to budget for 4 months?
31%.
31.4%.
And the budget would be
No, the
33%.
dollar amount,
Well, it's right there.
It's,
245,000?
we're at 3.3 million.
Yeah, well, what's the,
In
compared to
relation to
budget?
budget, we're 245,000 below budget.
All right, and the biggest item on that is in the 87,000 on general ops and non-department, what is that?
General ops, 87. I'm sorry, what is that?
Under non-departmental expenses.
Oh,
general
no.
operation.
Oh, the 87,000?
Yes.
That's saying that we're at 106,000, but our budget percentage, or where we should be, at this time would be 193,000
I know.
in expense. And right now, we're only 106 or 87,000 under budget, below where we should be.
And spending is 87,000 less.
Less,
Yes.
yes.
Is there a reason for that, or bad
Um,
budget, or?
We
No.
Bought certain items, general
Timing.
operations could be something that we're planning on buying in the
Yeah.
spring, that we just haven't bought yet.
So it's timing and expenditures.
Timing.
He has very limited credit.
It's like haircuts, you need a firm one, you don't have that.
He doesn't get new carpet,
Right.
that's the deal.
Yeah,
Trip and Paul has it.
yeah.
Okay, are we ready to set the date for the next meeting?
Well, it's always the second Tuesday, we've already got it.
Right.
Well, the thing I'm wondering is, second Tuesday in January would be the 8th.
Well, our meeting is always, it's It's every other month.
Okay, so that, in that case, then it would be the February the 12th. That's the second Tuesday.
Yeah, I got it down, 2 o'clock.
All right.
One thing to note, Mr. Chair, though, is in January, the council has requested, and the finance committee has requested a joint meeting to hear the property tax,
The actuarial,
actuarial.
the final, and then kind of, it was brought up at the council meeting about maybe doing a joint with the finance committee and the council to see if we can refresh our OPEB.
That could be a special meeting.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
and just be aware, I'm working on that.
Let's put a date for that
The
then.
special meeting, the special joint council.
It will probably have to send out a
Yeah.
notice to call everybody together.
We don't have a date yet. I should have something by the end of this week, because I have a meeting, with the consultant on Thursday. So we're gonna plan, check his schedule, and then also check the possibility of getting this done.
The council meeting is on the 17th. So I guess you want to have that meeting before the council meeting.
16.
Yeah, or we could have it, is it,
It's
we
really
can
not
have it
council meeting
afterwards.
dependent,
Yeah,
it's kind of a separate deal.
Mhm.
Okay, well, afterwards, if we're gonna have it afterwards, it'd be good to have it when you also had the January revenues.
Yes.
I have a meeting down on January the 8th, I wonder why.
You probably are scheduling them every
Month,
month.
yeah. We might have scheduled it, January,
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
it says, I have, that it's every other month, the
Okay,
second
so-
Tuesday at 2.
And what is the subject of this special meeting?
It's gonna go over, our actuarial study, the final report. There was some suggestions, through our council meeting in October to see if they can refresh our data on the our retirement, OPEB liabilities. Also, a question was asked about the discount rate, which was 6%.
The OPEB is the other benefits, not the pensions.
That's the retirement